Welcome to Cool Guy Podcast. Why the Mona Lisa painting is so famous.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think a lot of people have this experience. You've heard about the Mona Lisa your whole life. You finally get to the Louvre, you push through the crowds, and you see it.
And the first thought is, that's it.
Exactly, that's it. It's pretty small. And it doesn't really have that, that wow factor you see in the huge, dramatic paintings nearby.
It's a very quiet, very contemplative portrait.
Yeah.
And that's why we wanted to do this deep dive, to figure out how this painting, 500 years later, is still the most famous painting in the world.
And what the sources show is that it's this perfect storm. You've got the absolute peak of technical genius meeting a massive global scandal.
A perfect way to put it. Let's start with the genius part. We're talking about Leonardo da Vinci, who was so much more than a painter. He was this self-made intellectual who was studying anatomy, geology, philosophy.
And he poured all of that into his art. He knew the Mona Lisa was his masterpiece, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. The research says it was the only painting he actually brought with him when he moved to France in 1517 to work for the king.
So what made it so revolutionary? I mean, from a technical standpoint.
Well, for starters, the pose itself. It's the earliest Italian portrait to show the subject in this 3/4 length.
Which sounds technical, but it makes it feel so much more intimate, right? She's filling the frame, she's close to you.
Exactly. And that pose became the standard, the absolute norm for portraits for the next 400 years.
And her whole demeanor, the way she looks right at you.
That was radical, completely radical. That kind of bold, self-assured look was usually reserved for aristocratic men, not for women.
And notice what she's not wearing. No big jewels, no fancy clothes. He's making sure nothing distracts you from her face.
Right. And that's where he unleashes the real magic. First, you have chiaroscuro, that extreme contrast of light and shadow that makes her look, three-dimensional.
Like she could just step right out of the painting.
But the real game changer was a technique he basically perfected called sfumato.
Which means smoky, right?
Smoky, yes. It's this incredible process of layering dozens of super thin, semi-transparent glazes of paint. It softens all the edges, all the transitions between colors.
So it creates a kind of depth of field, like a camera lens focusing in.
That's the perfect analogy. She's in sharp focus, and the background gets this soft, hazy, dreamlike quality. And that background landscape, by the way, he just made it up.
It was completely from his imagination.
And he used something called aerial perspective, where things get paler and blurrier the farther away they are. It connects the curves of her body to the valleys behind her. It's this beautiful synthesis.
Which brings us to the smile. The famous enigmatic smile.
It's the ultimate blend of his art and his science. The man was studying facial nerves in morgues to understand how a smile actually worked.
And what he built was essentially an optical illusion.
It is. A Harvard neuroscientist, Dr. Margaret Livingstone, proved it back in 2000.
Okay.
It's all about how our eyes work. Your central vision, the fovea, is great at details. Your peripheral vision, not so much.
Okay, so when you look at her eyes, what happens?
Your detailed central vision is on her eyes, but your less accurate peripheral vision picks up the soft sfumato shadows around her mouth. And your brain reads those shadows as a smile.
But if you look right at her mouth,
the smile vanishes. Because now your detail-oriented vision is there, and the shadows aren't enough to trick it. He literally built a disappearing smile.
That's one half of the fame, the other half is just chaos.
Total chaos. Before 1911, the sources are clear. The Mona Lisa was an important painting, sure, but it just hung on a wall with a bunch of others. It wasn't a superstar yet.
And then it was stolen. And the heist itself is almost funny. It was so simple.
Unbelievably simple. A guy named Vincenzo Peruggia, who had worked at the Louvre, just hid in a storage closet overnight.
On a Sunday.
On a Sunday. The museum was closed on Monday. He just tucked the painting under his coat and walked out. A plumber even helped him open a door he couldn't get through.
And nobody even noticed it was gone for more than a day.
And when they did, the story just exploded worldwide. People were flocking to the Louvre just to stare at the empty spot on the wall. The investigation was huge. They even arrested Pablo Picasso for a while.
No way.
Yes. The painting was gone for 2 years. When Peruggia finally got caught trying to sell it in Florence, its return to Paris was a massive event.
And that's what did it. It wasn't just a painting anymore.
It was a national treasure. It was a household name. The sources say that news event, that scandal, is what really cemented its incredible popularity.
And that's why today it sits alone behind bulletproof, climate-controlled glass.
So when you look at it, you're seeing the result of two things: the accumulated knowledge of a once-in-a-millennium genius and one of the most famous crimes in history.
Which leaves you with a really interesting question to think about.
If the painting had never been stolen in 1911, would Leonardo's incredible blend of art and science and, magic, would that have been enough on its own to make it the single most famous portrait in the world today?